The real interesting thing about Bright is the reactions. Critics did not like the movie at all. It's rated at 26% on Rotten Tomatoes, and many of the critics have some pretty harsh things to say about it. One critic called it the worst movie of the year. However, at the same time, the audience has it at 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. Two officers from Netflix have responded to this difference between critics and audiences, claiming that critics are out of touch. So what is the deal with Bright? Is it a good movie or not? Hey, I'm G, and this is the G-Spot. One of the great things about this movie is the huge original universe that it presented us with. And I really liked how they set this universe up. They didn't present a new situation to our planet. They presented a situation that's been there the whole time. It's not that orcs and elves and fairies just appeared on Earth, or that we're just discovering them and figuring out how to deal with them. It was also interesting the way they set this universe up with different classes amongst these beings, with the elves being in the upper class and the orcs fighting for just basic rights. This universe leaves them a lot of room to make some meaningful comments on society. The second really positive aspect about this movie, and I'd say that this is more than a positive aspect, I would say that honestly this saved the movie, and that is Joel Edgerton's performance. Without his performance, I would have been outside of the movie the whole time, wondering, what is this movie about? Do I care about this movie? I probably would have shut it off, to be honest. But as soon as Jacoby shows up to pick Ward up for work, and he opens his mouth and begins talking, I immediately was pulled into the movie and identified with Jacoby's need to want to belong, to feel like he was accepted. Edgerton carries this performance through the entire movie, keeping us, one, attached to him and his goal of wanting to fit in, rooting for him throughout the movie, and laughing at him, because he was really a funny character too. It was a well-written character, and again, Edgerton's performance was just amazing. He truly breathed life into the orcs. And once we found ourselves attached to him, it made it much easier for us to accept all the other orcs in the movie as real beings. So what about the critics and all their naysaying about this movie? Did the critics have solid points, or are they just out of touch like the officers at Netflix want to believe? The problem with the structure in Bright is there is no structure, and it takes a long time to figure out which story am I watching. To begin with, we see that Jacoby and Ward, they first start arguing about Ward claiming that Jacoby has let him down, that he didn't perform his job well. He allowed Ward to get shot. Now, right off the bat, this doesn't make sense to me, to be honest, because when we see Ward get shot, Ward is not paying attention to things. He's being distracted by his cell phone. And Jacoby's, I don't know, 50 yards away. Lots of people in between them, and he's buying a sandwich for Ward. So when Ward gets shot, how that turns out to be Jacoby's fault, it just really feels wrong right from the start. And so every time Ward takes his frustrations out on Jacoby over allowing him to get shot, I just can't help but to think, so Ward's kind of a jerk. You know, he just wants to blame everybody for everything, because it just didn't seem like Jacoby's fault. Then about 5 minutes later, this whole argument changes, and it's no longer about Jacoby allowing Ward to get shot. It now becomes about Jacoby letting the perp get away. This is two completely different stories. If Jacoby allows Ward to get shot, then we're watching a movie that questions Jacoby's competence at being a police officer. But if Jacoby let a perp get away, then we're watching a movie that questions Jacoby's loyalty to the police force. So that was very confusing, and this is all in the first 15 minutes of the movie. Then the man with the sword gets arrested, and so it's like, okay, so this is where the story's going. But no, they drop him off, and he's just there to introduce the federal magic inspectors. Then Ward's approached by Internal Affairs, and he is asked to set Jacoby up. And okay, so now this is what the movie's gonna be about. We're going to watch to see if Ward does set Jacoby up, but no, nope, that's not what the movie's about either. The movie really ends up being about this magic wand that they finally end up finding with the elf girl. Once they do find the elf girl and the magic wand, okay, so now we know what the movie's about. And the movie does get better after that. It's not really too confusing for the majority of the second act. But before we get to the end and explain how it all fell apart, I want to bring up one other thing where they really just screwed things up big time. One of the things I loved about the universe is when we see Jacoby and Ward at roll call in the morning in the police station, the leaders are women. And I thought, wow, this is a great thing to do with this universe. They're putting women in positions of power. And big round of applause for that, right? Well, not really. Because when we get to the part where they found the wand and the police officers are trying to convince Ward that they need to kill Jacoby and they want to keep the wand for themselves, the woman officer is there. But you know what? She's not the leader. And so this step they took earlier to say, you know what? We're going to use our universe to show women in positions of power. Man, they really just kind of crapped all over themselves. Because then in this important moment, they show that this woman is not in a position of power, that it's really the man who makes all the decisions and is in charge. I just wish they were more tuned in to the story they were telling and what they were doing with stuff. It was a big negative, that part. So then we get to the end of the movie and it all falls apart. The whole second act is about the elf, Jacoby, and Ward figuring out how to work together fighting these powerful forces, because they're fighting elves, federal investigators, police, criminals, you know, everybody's after them. Makes for an exciting chase. We get to the showdown with the elves and the magic wands, and then we get this ending where we find out that Ward has been a Bright the whole time. And he picks up that wand and becomes the hero he never thought he... Wait a minute. We never watched a movie about Ward thinking he wasn't a hero, but he really was. We watched a movie that was about people accepting each other and working together despite their differences. And then we get to the end, and it seems to be about Ward accepting that he's a hero, even though he never believed he was. And it was, by all means, the wrong ending to the movie we watched. The ending we should have seen was the only way that Jacoby, Ward, and the elf girl were able to defeat the antagonist was by working together. And they kind of sort of did. They did kind of sort of do that. But it was much more about Ward picking up that magic wand and realizing that he was a Bright. Now, they did manage to save the end of the movie with the character that mattered the most to us, Jacoby. Jacoby does finally become blooded by the other orcs at the end of the movie. And this really does provide a good resolution for the audience, most specifically because it provides resolution about the character that we cared the most about. I am excited that they're making a second one because it was a really cool universe. I really hope that Netflix comes around and realizes, hey, maybe there's some places we can really improve the sequel to Bright. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't be afraid to go ahead and give it a like. If you know anybody else who would be interested in hearing about Bright's successes and failures, go ahead and share the video with them. And if you want to make sure that you are alerted every time we upload a video, go ahead, subscribe, ding the bell, and you will be alerted when we upload a video. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.